We live in interesting times. On tonight's headlines. Conditions are perfect to evacuate a young football team from a flooded Thai cave in the coming days before fresh rains and a possible rise in carbon dioxide further imperil the group, and that is according to the rescue mission chief. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo insisted that 2 days of talks with his North Korean counterpart on dismantling Pyongyang's nuclear arsenal had been very productive. The Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Business Advisory Council Philippines is urging the government to enlist the country in the Trans-Pacific Partnership and consider hopping aboard the Pacific Alliance to provide larger market access for local manufacturers. We have that report later from Cesar Vallejos. The death toll from record downpours in Japan rose to 20, with more than 1.6 million people ordered to evacuate on Saturday. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the globe. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. And now to the news. More than 100 chimneys are being drilled into the mountainside in a frantic bid to reach a Thai youth football team trapped in a cave complex below. That is according to the head of the rescue mission on Saturday. The unprecedented rescue effort is attempting to establish new ways to extract the boys from above if the underground chambers flood and it is deemed too risky to evacuate the team by diving out through the submerged passageways. Take a look.
โพรงขุดกันอยู่ตลอดเวลานะครับอย่างที่บอกว่าเป็นทางการจริงๆก็คือเจาะไปเป็น100โพรงเจอศักยภาพที่เจาะไปแล้วและดริลแล้ว18โพรงไปได้ลึกๆก็ประมาณ400เมตรของโพรงนึงไอ้อยู่ตรงไหนแล้วเราจะยิงไปยังไงให้ตรงกับทาร์เก็ตตรงเป้าหมายเพื่อจะเอาอากาศเข้าไปให้ได้ก่อนหรือจะเอาเจาะรูขนาดใหญ่ให้เด็กออกมาได้ตอนนี้ท่านเปอร์เซ็นต์ของออกซิเจนอย่างเดียวไม่ได้เป็นตัวชี้ว่าจะดำรงอยู่ได้จะมีสติอยู่ได้หรือไม่องค์ประกอบอีกอันหนึ่งก็คือคาร์บอนไดออกไซด์
Now, on the question of dipping oxygen levels in the cave, he said rescuers had managed to establish a line to pump in fresh air and had also withdrawn non-essential workers from Chamber 3, where the rescue base is, to preserve levels inside the cave. The wild boar team have been trapped inside the Tom Luang Cave complex for 2 weeks. Meanwhile, the rescue chief mission also said that conditions are perfect to evacuate the young football team from the flooded Thai cave in the coming days before fresh rains and a possible rise in carbon dioxide further imperil the group. Take a look. Now, the plight of 12 Thai boys and their coach from the wild boar football team has transfixed Thailand since they became trapped in the cramped chamber of the Tam Luang Cave complex on June 23. Rescuers have conceded that evacuating the boys is a race against time, with monsoon rains expected to undo days of round-the-clock drainage of the deluged cave. Narongsak Osatanakorn, the chief of the rescue operation, told reporters that now and in the next 3 or 4 days, the conditions are perfect for evacuation in terms of the water, the weather, and the boys' health. While the oxygen level had stabilized, he warned levels of carbon dioxide earlier are another factor in considering when to move the group, in addition to impending rains which could cover much of the muddy ledge on which the group are sheltering. He also said the water level may rise to the area where the children are sitting and make the area less than 10 square meters, he said, citing estimates from cave divers and experts. Now, in the early hours of Saturday morning, he said the boys were not yet ready to dive out of the cave, a complex and dangerous task through twisting and jagged submerged passageways. But his comments 12 hours later suggest the thinking has changed, with water levels inside the cave currently managed to their lowest point by constant drainage. Meanwhile, earlier on Saturday, Thai Navy SEALs published touching notes scrawled by the trapped footballers to their families who are waiting for them agonizingly close by outside the cave entrance. Take a look. Now, the children urged their relatives not to worry and asked for their favorite food once they're safely evacuated. The team of young Thai footballers trapped inside a flooded cave has reassured their parents they are fine and strong in a series of heartbreaking notes, some of which ask for crispy pork and fried chicken, and others simply for their loved ones to not worry. Mom and Dad, don't worry that I am missing for 2 weeks. I will help you at the shop soon, writes Ake Karat Bill Wong Sung Jan in one of the short notes uploaded to the Thai Navy SEALs Facebook page this morning. In another, Duang Pech Dom Promtep 13 writes to his family, I'm fine, but it's a little bit cold. Don't worry and don't forget my birthday. The group's youngest member, 11-year-old Chanin Tun Wibun Rengreng, tells his parents, don't worry, I'm fine. Tell Yord prepare to bring me fried chicken to eat. While its oldest coach, Ake Kapol Ake Chatawang, assures his grandmother and aunt he is fine. Please take care of your health, aunt. Please tell grandma to do vegetables paste and crispy pork skin. If I can go out, I'll eat it, the 25-year-old writes. Meanwhile, the 25-year-old coach also said he's the only adult to accompany the boys into the cave, and he sent his apologies to their parents. He said, to all the parents, all the kids are still fine. I promise to take the very best care of the kids, he said in the note given to divers on Friday. Now, the tone of the boys' notes suggests that they have been kept mercifully unaware of the agonizing decisions being made above them. Provincial Governor Narongsak also Tenakorn told reporters early this morning that British divers were leading the rescue in the last critical stretch ahead of the predicted monsoon rains, which, along with depleted oxygen levels, rescuers were already pumping air through a tube into the third chamber, 1,500 meters from the cave entrance, where the Thai Navy SEALs had set up a command post. And they were sending oxygen tanks to where the boys were sheltering a further 1,700 meters deeper into the cave. All right, here's a video graphic locating Tam Luang Cave in northern Thailand, as well as one possible escape option for the trapped boys. Take a look. Meanwhile, the family of a Thai diver who died in the attempted rescue of the 12 boys stuck in the flooded cave say they are proud of his heroic efforts. Take a look.
ซอยอยู่หรอกครับเพราะว่าผมก็มีลูกคนเดียวผมฝากไว้แค่นี้ว่ามีลูกคนเดียวผมภูมิใจที่สุดที่ลูกเป็นจังซี่แล้วก็เฮ็ดแบบนี้แล้วก็มาเจอแบบนี้ก็นี่แหละผมเสียใจที่สุดตรงนี้แบบดีใจที่ลูกได้ไปซอยเหลือสังคมแล้วก็บ่มีผู้ใดอยากให้มันเกิดสิ่งมันจะเกิดมันก็ต้องเกิดอันนี้ที่หมูป่านี่ผมก็บ่ได้โทษว่าเอาลูกผมไปตายผมก็บ่ได้โทษเลยเพราะว่าสิ่งใดมันจะเกิดมันก็ต้องเกิดมัน
A former Thai Navy diver helping to rescue a football team trapped inside the flooded cave died Friday, and officials are warning the window of opportunity to free the youngsters is limited. The diver's death raises serious doubts over the safety of attempting to bring the 12 boys and their football coach out through the camped waterlogged passageways of the Tam Luang Cave. To other news now, the head of the UN Migration Agency has urged Libya to stop detaining migrants who have been returned to the country after trying to cross the Mediterranean Sea to Europe. Now, that appeal coincided with a call from the UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR, to boost search and rescue facilities in the region, amid concerns about a toughening stance in some EU countries against volunteer boats disembarking people plucked from the water. William Lacey Swing made the personal appeal to Libya's Prime Minister Fayez al-Sarraj. IOM's Leonard Doyle told journalists in Geneva.
One after another, absolutely awful personal stories of human grief in these detention centres, and his call really is to not send migrants back into detention.
Of more than 50 detention centers in operation last year in Libya, only 17 are still open and thousands are still being held, according to IOM. Last month alone, almost 4,000 people were rescued in the country's territorial waters. The agency said in a statement, noting with concern that migrants are sent into detention, often into overcrowded and poorly monitored centers. And staying with migration, the UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR, has called for greater search and rescue facilities in the Mediterranean Sea amid a continuing high loss of life. Now, for the 5th year in a row, more than 1,000 people have died or are missing after attempting the crossing from North Africa. This is despite the fact that 5 times fewer asylum seekers and migrants have reached Europe's shores in the first 6 months of 2018 than in 2016, when arrivals were at their peak. Amid concerns about a toughening stance by some EU countries towards volunteer boats that have been prevented from disembarking migrants, UNHCR's Charlie Yaxley said that saving lives must remain a priority.
So it's really critical that any boat or any shipmaster that is in the vicinity of being able to come to the assistance of a distress call is allowed to do that. If we have any threats of legal action or potential repercussions hanging over boats rescuing people at sea, then the very principle itself will potentially come under risk. We may see shipmasters wavering over responding to distress calls, and that's a dire situation not only for refugees and migrants, but for anybody who's in distress at sea.
Between January and April, non-governmental organizations have been responsible for around 40% of rescue operations for those disembarked in Italy, according to UNHCR. In other news, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo insisted that 2 days of talks with his North Korean counterpart on dismantling Pyongyang's nuclear arsenal had been very productive. Take a look. But briefing reporters before flying to Tokyo, he offered few new details as to how North Korea would honor its commitment to denuclearize in exchange for U.S. security guarantees. These are complicated issues, but we have made progress on almost all of the central issues. Some places a great deal of progress. Other places there's still more work to do or to be done, he said. The U.S. envoy later left Pyongyang bound for Tokyo, where he has to brief his Japanese and South Korean counterparts and talk to reporters on Sunday.
So the work that we do, the path toward...
On July 4, the newly appointed Consul General of the Philippine Consulate in New York held a meet and greet event with the Filipino community there. Percival Cunanan, our EBC reporter, was at the event.
For the very first time, the newly appointed Consul General of the Philippine Consulate in New York, Ambassador Claro S. Cristobal, officially met the members of the Filipino community by the meet and greet event among the members of the Filipino Press Club of New York. He chose to meet first the members of the Philam Press Club to introduce himself and to lay down all his top agendas and programs as the newly appointed Consul General. According to him, his leadership will be inclusive, where he will listen attentively and carefully to all members of Filipino communities for the success of their projects and goals. He also added that leadership is not to be dictated. Leadership is participative and result-oriented.
I am so very open to changes. Why? Because as I said, leadership is measured in the kind of results it produces. Then results will happen, will modulate the kind of actions that I will be taking.
Meanwhile, the members of the Film Press Club of New York eagerly asked questions to the new Conjan that he enthusiastically answered, such as what kind of leadership he will be, and questions about immigration, business, trade, and economy, and many others. We will not deny help to anyone, according to Conjan Claro Cristobal in response to an immigration query. He also emphasized that he will strengthen programs relating to Philippine investments, supporting the small businesses and startup in New York, being an economist. Conjan Claro S. Cristobal has been assigned several times in New York in different posts and departments such as Minister, Philippine Mission to the United Nations, Consul, Philippine Consulate General in New York, and Third Secretary and Second Secretary, Philippine Mission to the United Nations, not to mention his numerous assignments in foreign services in many parts of the world. Conjan Claro Cristobal graduated with the Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy and Master of Arts in Economics from the University of the Philippines. In addition, he was a professional lecturer in economics at De La Salle University, Manila, finance manager at Cocomark, and instructor at Social Sciences of the University of the Philippines. From New York City, Percival Cunanan, Eagle News, New York Bureau. And I am Juan with 25.
Thank you, Percy Cunanan from our New York Bureau. We'll take a short break. The news continues here on Eagle News International.
This is Cesar Vallejos for Business News. What Beijing called as the largest trade war in economic history between the world's top two economies, the U.S. imposed punishing tariffs on Chinese imports beginning Friday. The U.S. implemented 25% duties on about $34 billion in Chinese machinery, electronics, and high-tech equipment, including autos, computer hard drives, and LEDs. China, in response, said that counter tariffs took effect immediately and it would match the U.S. measures dollar for dollar. U.S. President Donald Trump has vowed to hit as much as $450 billion in Chinese goods, the vast majority of imports. He has for years slammed what he describes as Beijing's underhand economic treatment of the United States, with the U.S. trade deficit in goods with China ballooning to a record $375.2 billion last year. Economists have warned that the tit-for-tat measures could throttle global growth and strike at the heart of the world trade system, causing shockwaves across the planet.
What the United States are doing will have a long-term influence to the global trade system. And what I think is, at the one hand, China, we need to protect our interest in all this process. On the other hand, we should also consider what the new system should be like in the future.
U.S. officials accuse China of building its emerging industrial dominance by stealing the crown jewels of American technological know-how through cyber theft, forced transfers of intellectual property, and state-sponsored corporate acquisitions. And despite dire warnings about the impact on the U.S., Trump believes the robust American economy can outlast its rivals in the current battle, but China believes otherwise. A member of China's Central Bank Monetary Policy Committee, Ma Jun, said Friday The first punches will have a limited impact on the Chinese economy as it will only slow down China's GDP growth by 0.02 percentage points. With only $130 billion in U.S. imports to retaliate against, Beijing has said it will take qualitative and quantitative measures against the U.S., triggering fears it could cripple the operations of U.S. multinationals in China. Chinese stocks actually rose after the announcement, with the benchmark Shanghai Composite Index up nearly 1% and the border Shenzhen Index climbing more than 1%. Stocks fell back slightly from that point, with Shanghai closing up 0.5 percentage point. Li Daoxiao, analyst at Ting the Securities, said news of the tariffs was already priced into the market. Therefore, investors are not in as much of a panic as before. On the streets of Beijing, there were some concerns that prices would rise due to the tariffs, but also a determination to support the Beijing authorities in the trade war. The powerful U.S. Chamber of Commerce, a principal corporate lobby, said that the existing and expected trade wars with China, Canada, Mexico, the European Union, and others against Trump's tariffs was already affecting $75 billion in U.S. exports.
I don't see any economy can replace China in the short term to meet all the capacity gap at this scenario. So the probable scenario is they still need to buy from China, and the tariff actually hurts not only China but also the United States.
Under the banner of his America First policy, Trump has already targeted other traditional trade partners of the U.S., such as the European Union, Japan, Mexico, and even Canada. Signs are growing that the escalating global trade dispute is already affecting the world's top economy and was beginning to darken the otherwise blue skies of the robust American economy. The Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Business Advisory Council, or ABAC Philippines, is urging the government to enlist the country in the Trans-Pacific Partnership and consider hopping aboard the Pacific Alliance to provide larger market access for local manufacturers. The ABAC Philippines said the government should consider enlisting the country in the TPP in spite of its reduced economic size with the withdrawal of the U.S. once the trade deal opens its doors to new members. Guillermo Luz said this may help us gain preferential access from economies we do not have existing partnerships with, such as Canada, Chile, Mexico, and Peru. Aside from this, ABAC Philippines said the trade deal will also provide the Philippines a level playing field in competing with Malaysia and Vietnam in exporting to TPP economies such as Australia and Canada.
I must confess to all of you that when we started,
the growth outlook for the Philippines in the near term remained strong on the back of stable economic, fiscal, and monetary policies, favorable demographics, its ambitious infrastructure program, as well as the comprehensive tax reform, Debt Watcher SP Global's global ratings said. SP Asia Pacific economist Vincent Conti said that growth-wise, the Philippines in the past 2 years has actually been stellar. In terms of the outlook for the next 2 years, he said that a 6.5% and above as a pace of growth is actually very easily achievable. He said the ramping up of the infrastructure program was one of the relatively newer additions to the policy toolkit. Under Build, 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 the government plans to roll out 75 game-changing flagship projects alongside spending a total of over 8 trillion pesos on hard and modern infrastructure until 2020 to usher in the golden age of infrastructure. Inflation picked up faster than expected to 5.2% year-on-year in June, the highest in more than 5 years, due to costlier food and sin products. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas vowed to get the inflation rate back to its 2 to 4% target range amid increasing pressure for more interest rate hikes than the two made this year. The Philippine Statistics Authority reported that June's faster inflation was primarily brought about by higher annual rate posted in the heavily weighted food and non-alcoholic beverages index at 6.1%. Socioeconomic Planning Secretary Ernesto Pernia said that the June inflation rate was rather unexpected, but he believed the 6-month average inflation rate of 4.3 remained manageable. Malacanang also said that the faster inflation rate was not something to worry about. Inflation climbed to 4.9% year-on-year in June, the highest in more than 5 years, due to a low base from last year, the higher prices of vegetable and seed products, and increased education-related costs at the start of the school year. In an economic bulletin, Finance Undersecretary and Chief Economist Gil Beltran said consumer prices last month inched up 0.35% from levels in May. The month-on-month inflation adjustment may be due mainly to two items: the 2.43% month-on-month rise in prices of education-related goods and services during the opening of classes, and 2.27% rise in vegetable prices that usually accompanies incessant rains at the onset of the wet season, the DOF economist said. Jollibee Foods Corporation on Tuesday maintained it is compliant with labor laws and regulations months after the Department of Labor and Employment ordered the homegrown food giant to give more than 7,000 workers permanent employment status. Jollibee told the stock exchange that all of its workers are regular, either through direct hiring or dual licensed service providers with security of tenure, proper wages and benefits, such as 13th month pay, paid leaves, health insurance, and other benefits that they are entitled to under the Labor Code. Shopping tops the list of tourist activities in the Philippines. A survey of foreign visitors last year by the Department of Tourism showed. The visitor sample survey polled some 15,000 respondents from the top 12 tourist source markets of the country from January to December 2017. They were asked the question, what other activities did you actually do aside from the main purpose? According to the survey, 38.2% of total respondents said they shopped in the Philippines, followed by sightseeing at 26.7%, nature and adventure at 10.5%, total sports 7.8%, beach holiday at 4.2%, total cultural at almost 3%, others, pleasure or vacation at 2.05%, scuba diving at some 2%, investment opportunities at some 1.8%, and to visit friends and relatives at 0.94%. These tourist markets are South Korea, People's Republic of China, the United States, Japan, Australia, Taiwan, Canada, the United Kingdom, Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, and India. Our EBC correspondent Angelo Corpus takes us on a tour of a flea market in Tampa, Florida. Let's find out what treasures we can find inside despite being on a strict budget.
Hi everyone, it's Angelo. Indoor or outdoor and varying in size, there are thousands of flea markets throughout the US alone. Some held a few times a month and some held every weekend. Here in Florida, we wanted to check out a local flea market here in Tampa on achieving valuable finds with a $10 budget. Let's go take a look.
Throughout the flea market, since there are different little and large treasures that can only be found in a local area near you.
But there are also different kinds of entertainment, like pianos, for people to take interest in.
Alright guys, we got our first buy. It's an umbrella hat for $1.
Antiques can be found and shown for amusement. There are even useful items such as an umbrella hat and a foldable chair.
Hey everyone, my next item will be these fans, these mini USB fans that can be connected to either iPhone or Android. Since it's hot and it's in Florida, people may use this because we need to cool it.
Lastly, the flea market can even have secret rare finds such as a Gundam store. The Gundam products were imported straight from Japan. This Gundam store is the largest place that sells Japanese products and figures.
For my last purchase, I'm gonna get this Ramen bottle and these mints. These products you can't get anywhere else here in Florida unless you're here in this Gundam place, which is from Japan. They have all these products here, which you can never get at a common place. So check it out and buy some.
So, go check out your local flea market. You'll never know if you may find something extraordinary. Signing off from Baltimore, Florida, I'm Angelo, and I'm always one with 25.
That's it for business news. This is Cesar Vallejos, and I'm one with 25. Eagle News International will be right back. Stick with us. Welcome back. I'm Jeffrey Angeles, and this is Environment News. The death toll from record downpours in Japan rose to 20, with more than 1.6 million people ordered to evacuate on Saturday as heavy rain continued to strike large areas to the west of the country. Intense rainfall triggered huge landslides and flash floods in Hiroshima, Okayama, Kyoto, and other regions, while hampering rescue operations with dozens of people reportedly missing. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe ordered his ministers to make an all-out effort to rescue victims, saying the situation is extremely serious. Record downpours prompted authorities to order some 1,614,000 people to evacuate their homes, mainly in western Japan, according to the Fire and Disaster Management Agency. Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshihide Suga said some areas have been hit by more than a meter of rainfall, according to the government, while around 48,000 troops, police, and firefighters have been deployed for rescue operations. The Japan Meteorological Agency upgraded its alert system to the highest level only issued when the amount of rain is expected to be the highest in decades in large areas of western Japan, while lifting the warnings in other regions. Agency official Minako Sakurai told reporters heavy rain was forecasted to continue until Sunday in western and eastern Japan. Firefighters battling wildfires throughout the U.S. West that have torched hundreds of homes hoped for some help from the weather Saturday, even as new fires swept sweltering Southern California. A fire on the California-Oregon border that destroyed 40 buildings and claimed at least one life since Thursday remained virtually out of control. But a National Weather Service warning of extreme fire danger from heat and winds expired Friday. It was one of dozens of fires across the dry American West, fueled by rising temperatures and gusty winds that were expected to last through the weekend. Heat spreading from Southern California into parts of Arizona, Nevada, and Utah threatened to worsen flames that have forced thousands of people to evacuate and destroyed hundreds of homes across the West. Farther south, a new wind-driven fire Friday night burned at least 20 homes and threatened hundreds more in the hills above Goleta in Santa Barbara County. East of Los Angeles in the San Bernardino National Forest, authorities ordered the evacuation of the community of Forest Falls, which has about 700 homes, as a quick-moving wildfire swelled to 1,000 acres. A new causeway built in a remote part of the Marshall Islands has strengthened access between two sections of an island facing severe erosion. Until recently, the people of Woja Island had difficulty traveling between homes, schools, hospitals, and other key locations, sometimes being stranded for hours during high tides. ABC Mariana's correspondent, John Rick Andolero, has this feature. John?
Rising sea levels continue to be a problem in the Marshall Islands, where many of the nation's 29 atolls are less than 3 meters or less than 10 feet above sea level, according to the Science and Technology Group Pacific Community. One example is Boza Island Ailing Laplap Atoll, with almost 2,000 residents. They had found it very difficult to travel to school, or simply go shopping, or visit family and friends, because their road was often covered by water. The national government, however, is confident it has been successful in resolving the issue for many years.
The government have a lot of plans, like we have ongoing seawall projects, building resilient houses, and also we already built a causeway at one of the low-level atolls here in Marshall Island, particularly in Woja Ailing Laplap.
One of the recent projects mentioned is the Woja Causeway. Opened in 2015, this roadway strengthened access between two parts of Woja Island facing coastal erosion. In partnership with outside organizations, the causeway was built by the Ministry of Public Works using local materials and other components such as tree planting by residents and school students. Many residents who have lived all their lives here believe the government should do more.
It's been going a long time, pretty much. I think it was maybe 10 or more years from now.
You guys plan on relocating elsewhere?
No. We're gonna stay here. This is our country and we love the Marshall Islands.
If the government is helping you now, is there a solution working?
Yeah. We like to ask for funding. Like that way we can also build seawalls that we can prevent the high tide from coming in.
Meanwhile, the country's president has already made an appeal to the international community to deal with climate change and rising ocean levels to prevent the disappearance of these islands. Reporting from Majuro Marshall Islands, I'm John Rick Andolero for Eagle News. I'm 1 with 25.
Thank you, John. Now, before we go to our next story, here's some trivia. Climbed mountain in the world. Is it Mount Everest, Mount Fuji, Mount Agung, or Mount Hood? Mount Fuji regularly gets the title as the most climbed mountain in the world. Figures show that around 300,000 people a year climb to the snowy tip of Japan's highest mountain. Consider that the official climbing season only runs for 2 months, July and August, and you get a sense of how swarm-like it can be. Well, the climbing season officially kicked off at Mount Fuji for trails in Yamanashi Prefecture. Dennis Liu reports. Dennis?
As the snow capping the pinnacle of Japan's highest peak melted away, mountaineers and sports enthusiasts are gearing up for hours of climbing expedition as officials opened Mount Fuji in the Yamanashi side of its climbing season on Sunday morning. Climbers will be able to access the perfect cone-shaped mountain from the Shizuoka side starting July 10th. Mount Fuji straddles the prefectures of Yamanashi and Shizuoka. At the opening, at least 150 climbers have already reached the summit at 4:28 in the morning, waiting for the sunrise. Local Japanese broadcaster Fuji TV reported. This summer, another great percentage of climbers, both local and foreign, are expected to climb in July and August. According to report, over 220,000 people climbed Mount Fuji last year, as recorded by the Yamanashi and Shizuoka prefectural governments. Government officials in both prefectures are hoping to put up an amount to preserve and help maintain the place's natural beauty. Hence, they are asking climbers to give a voluntary contribution of 1,000 yen or less than $10, just like last year. In recognition of the mountain's status as a symbol of Japan, Mount Fuji was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2013 in turn brought a huge influx of visitors, mostly trekkers and mountaineers, in the area since then. Local officials have been doing their best to improve traffic access and other facilities. Climbers who want a challenging trek will have the chance to climb the 3,776-meter mountain until the 10th of September. Reporting from Tokyo, Japan, this is Dennis Liu for Eagle News International, and I am 1 with 25.
Thank you, Dennis. Video captured a whirlwind above a lava channel in Hawaii near the volcano or near the Kilauea volcano, which picked up lava, flinging it through the air on Saturday. The USGS said the fissure's eruption sent lava about 180 feet into the air. Kilauea is Hawaii's most active of the state's 5 volcanoes. In recent weeks, several craters have collapsed, causing more than 4,000 earthquakes, registering between magnitude 2 and 3, according to data from the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory. Since the volcano became active in 1983, magma from the mantle has continually risen beneath the summit, passed through the magma store system, and spewed out the summit towards the East Rift Zone. Kilauea has been erupting since May 3, which has caused thousands of residents from Leilani Estates, Vacation Land, and Kapoho Bay to be evacuated. The most likely activity includes earthquakes large enough to be damaging, as well as small to intermediate ash plumes that remain below 10,000 feet above sea level. Eagle News International will be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back. France became the first team to reach the World Cup semifinals on Friday after an assured 2-0 win against Uruguay. Watch this. A superb first half display by Belgium ends Brazil's hopes of a record 6th World Cup crown as Fernandinho owned goal and a superb Kevin De Bruyne strike prove enough to win 2-1 and seal a semi-final spot. Watch this. And that is all for me. I'm Jeffrey Angeles and I'm 1 with 25. Back to you, Alma.
And finally, in our news, Angelo Corpus takes us to the Japanese Summer Festival in Tampa, Florida.
Hi everyone, it's Angelo. When people think of Japan, they'll most likely think of sushi, samurais, and sumo wrestling. But Japan is more than that. Japanese culture is an interesting culture that continues to evolve, which is why many people continue to admire this country and everything it has to offer. Which brings us to Asia Trends Japanese Summer Festival of 2018 here in Tampa, Florida.
Japanese culture has stayed not only in Japan, but also throughout the whole world. Historically, their culture has origins from other neighboring countries like China and Korea. One interesting game played is goldfish scooping known as kingyo sukui. You have to scoop the goldfish using a poi, and if you catch it, you can keep it. But it's not easy as it sounds. The tool is made with thin washi paper that can easily break in the water. Kimonos and yukatas are traditional Japanese clothing. Various people were wearing them at the festival.
I thought it would be a good way to represent my culture, and I never get to wear this often, so I thought it would be a great occasion to wear it. I think that when you want to go to a Japanese festival, it's just my most beautiful kimono I think I have, and so I think it's a very important day because I never get to wear it. So I just think that it's a special day to be surrounded by people who understand kimono and yukata, so it's a good place to be.
This Japanese summer festival even has a way of gathering various people together.
I think that it's you never see like many festivals that bring people together with a certain culture, so I think it's very cool that you get to see people who all connect on one thing. I actually didn't expect so much, I guess, so I was surprised. This was more than I expected, so I don't know necessarily what I expected, but I surely expected a lot of people, and that's exactly what it is. It's special because it brings people together over culture, so bringing all races together to experience a beautiful culture is very admirable, and I don't really commonly see this. Rather than at a convention center, which is just cosplay, they have actual Japanese people teaching you and letting you try on yukata. It's very generous, I think, of a culture to let everyone experience.
So after experiencing such a unique event, people from all over come to support this Japanese festival. So go check out a festival happening in your area. I'm Angelo Corpuz, and I am always one with 25.
Thank you, Angelo, and that's it for tonight's broadcast. I'm Alma Angeles, always one with 25. Good night.